Kia ora and welcome to the Creative Matters podcast, where we have inspiring conversations with New Zealand artists. I'm your host, Mandy Yarkich. These conversations are intimate, uplifting and insightful. The guests on this show have absolutely enriched my life, and I'm sure their stories will have the same effect on you. Thank you so much for joining me to listen to these amazing people speak about what drives them, the way they work, and their personal takes on life. Morena, and welcome back to the Creative Matters podcast. This is episode 6060. This week I'm speaking with Lauren Kitts. Lauren is a sculptor living in the Tasman area at the top of the South Island, who works mostly in stone, but also in bronze and wood.
And there's something about stone, it's like, it's almost like it's alive, or it talks to you, or it definitely talks to me anyway.
Lauren has gained international recognition as a professional sculptor for the last 30 years plus. She exhibits on a regular basis and now has her own sculpture gallery in the Tasman area on her 13-acre property. Her inspiration is the natural world where form and all its complexities abound. She explores the connection between the material world and the unseen, and is concerned with the nature of uncertainty and man-made climate change, which is expressed in many of her new works. Lauren has a fascinating practice, and I really loved hearing her story, and I'm sure you will too. We talk about her deep connection with stone and her passion for form, how she sources some of the stone she uses from a local river and Takaka Mountain, her stone carving process, the tools she uses, and the endless source of inspiration she gets from positive and negative form. Hello, Lauren. How are you?
Good, thanks.
It's lovely to meet you. So we're zooming from Muriwai down to the Tasman area near Nelson at the top of the South Island. Yeah, welcome to Creative Matters.
Well, thank you for asking me.
You're welcome. Now, just looking through all the incredible work that you've made over the 30 plus years you've been sculpting, it was very hard to choose what I was going to include in your blog post because there's so much incredible work of such variety. So it's going to be really interesting to hear how you have developed your practice over the years. And I'm also really interested to hear about your process, especially working with stone, which I don't know a lot about. But can we go right back to the beginning, Lauren, and talk about where you were born and what kind of childhood you had?
Okay. Well, I was actually born in Nuremberg, Germany. My dad was in the army, and also I was born on an army hospital base. And I lived in Germany and traveled around Europe with my parents until I was 3. And then we moved back to Colorado, and I have 2 brothers. And when I was 6, my parents got divorced, and my mother went off with her anthropology professor, and we went to Africa with her, and we traveled all over and lived in villages and all sorts of things, which was all a bit of a blur because it was a long time ago. But how I ended up in New Zealand was after that trip to Africa, I went back and lived with my dad in Colorado. So I did a lot of, he was really into skiing and hiking and things like that. So I grew up being very physical, skiing, hiking, that sort of thing. When I was 13, my mother and stepfather, who were both anthropologists, moved to New Zealand to study the Polynesian immigration to Auckland. And I went to live with my mother for a year. Then I went back and lived with my dad. So I've had a very sort of moving around childhood. must have changed school about 10 times or something. I don't remember. But, the sort of a bit lost feeling, really, over childhood, and didn't really feel like I belonged anywhere. And I still don't have a place the place that I call home is New Zealand, because I've lived here now for 40 years, but I don't have roots, so to speak. Anyway, so I went back to Colorado for a while, then I came back to New Zealand. I went to university. I graduated from high school in Auckland, went to university in Hamilton studying psychology. Don't know why. Went back to America for 5 years and did what I really enjoyed. The first time I ever picked up a hammer and chisel and started carving a piece of stone, I just knew that was what I wanted to do. That it just completely absorbed my attention, and all my worries and fears and everything just went away. And it's just such a way to be in the now and be totally engaged with the now and making something. And I didn't find that same engagement in any of the other media I tried in art school in California. That's why I'm a stone carver. And there's something about stone. It's like it's almost like it's alive, or it talks to you, or it definitely talks to me anyway. And it's so much easier than people. My childhood was fairly I've always been very shy and found it hard to talk to people, which is why I guess I took up this profession that's very it's just me in the rock, really. Although having said that, over the years I've met a lot of people who are like me, and through stone carving have made connections with people. So yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, I imagine that there are quite a lot of kind of like-minded people in that sort of industry.
Yeah, there are. And stone carving it takes a particular type of person, I think, almost like a misfit. It's not particularly gregarious people, I don't think. I don't know. I suppose you can't really say that as a blanket statement, but you spend a lot of hours on your own, you and the stone, and that's it, and you like that. And I do. And, people who do it like it. So,
yeah, I guess it's almost like you've created your own world with the stone.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, which is lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you ever actually, do stone carvers come together very much and work collaboratively, do you think?
Well, when I moved back to New Zealand in 1985, I went to the first ever symposium in New Zealand, which was at Western Springs. And there were a lot of artists there that are now quite well known, and they aren't stone carvers. They're more in other practices. Virginia King, Carol Shepherd. That's just the most famous ones that were there. But that experience, I'd never done that before. It was about 25 people working outside in the quarry at Western Springs for, I think it was a really long symposium, about 3 months long. And just getting to know all these people and sharing ideas and how to do what you do. And I just got addicted to it. And I started doing them as much as I could. Like over the years, every summer I'd do as many symposiums as there were, wherever they were. And there became more and more in New Zealand as time went on. I did the Matamata and Hamilton and Wellington and New Plymouth and Christchurch and Coromandel, and just everywhere, and everywhere you go, there's different people, there's different stones, there's different. And as time went on, the tools that are available for carving stone changed. Yeah, it was just like, it was like my people fix and my creative fix as well. And it was also good way to sell what I made.
Yeah. So what is the actual purpose of a symposium, Lauren, and how does it work?
Well, a symposium, which I found out in that first one in Western Springs, an old Greek word, it actually means drinking party. But, which some of them were in the old days. But it's the purpose of it is to get together with like-minded people and do what you love with them in an environment that's totally about that. And so the rest of the world kind of goes away and you're just with a bunch of people who do that particular thing. So, I mean, it could be a symposium about anything, but you would be focusing on whatever topic all those people were interested in. It wasn't so much working collaboratively on a piece, but working with people, alongside people on your own piece. I mean, there's symposiums going on in New Zealand now where I haven't been to them, where different artists collaborate on a single piece. I think it's called the Collaborations, New Zealand. Yeah. But I think that's a totally different practice. Yeah.
And do you come with some of your work as well to show the public or to show your colleagues, your peers?
These symposiums, you're usually working on quite large pieces of stone. Like the first ones I did, we were working on 2-ton blocks of stone. And so there's a lot of heavy machinery and dust and noise, and finished pieces wouldn't really fit in that environment. There were a couple I did in Auckland, actually in Albany, where we weren't allowed to use power tools because of the situation we were in, and we were carving fairly soft stone. And we did bring some along, I think at the end to sell. But as a rule, that wasn't really the purpose. It was not to, I mean, with 25 artists all bringing their own work, there would just be too much work. Yeah. And usually at the end of these symposiums, there would be an auction, and that'd be too much to auction off. So, yeah, that wasn't really how it worked. It was just,
more of a working space and coming together with other artists who had similar practices.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing.
During the day, you would go and talk to your neighbor or somebody across the field or whatever about what you're doing, and say, what do you think about that? What do you reckon about that line? And they'd be like, no, I think you should change that or whatever,
Yeah. And that would be great when it's such a solo practice in general. And how did you actually find that when you say that you're a shy person and like to work on your own?
Really educational and quite liberating, I suppose, because I was with people who sort of spoke my language, the language of form. When they say, what do you think about that line? They know exactly what you meant. Whereas if you ask the general public, they're like, what do you mean? I don't understand what you're saying. So it was just a revelation that there were people who spoke the same language, so to speak, as me.
And had the same thoughts, I guess, too. Yeah, that'd be amazing. So let's just talk about your practice. I mean, in general, you obviously specialize in stone. I'm not sure if that's how you see it, but that's your main material that you use. But you also make sculpture in wood and bronze.
Yeah.
So could you describe the kind of work that you make and why you make it?
Well, a lot of what I make is determined by the material. I mean, there's certain things that you can make in bronze that you just can't make in stone. And the same goes for wood. There's certain things in wood you can't make in bronze or stone. So each different material has a different properties that kind of, in a way, direct what you're going to do to start out with, what the actual material can stand. Like if you're trying to make a really thin leaf, for example, out of stone, it has to be a particular kind of stone, and it'd probably be easier to make it out of bronze or wood because it won't break, that sort of thing. So a lot of the form is informed by the material. And then even the stone, what you can make with different kinds of stone is really dependent on the type of stone. I did a lot of soft stone carving to begin with, where you can make things with a lot of holes in them and quite intricate carving that you can do with tools that you just can't do with power tools, hand tools.
Just sort of interested in what kind of form you're interested in and what sort of themes inspire you to make the work that you make.
Over the years, it changes, depends on where you're at, emotionally and in your life. When I had young children, a lot of my subject matter was around that, and around my various things that I went through in relationships and things. Now I'm more about actual just pure form rather than the subject matter relating back to issues in my life. I've sort of come to a point in my life now where things are fairly settled. Kids are grown up, settled down. So what I'm working on at the moment is more to do with just the fascination I have with form, which is all about positives and negatives. It's all about what goes in and what goes out and how they relate to each other. And the things I find in nature that do that are like rolling hills and clouds and water, and just the sort of elements probably inform my work now more than emotional sort of ups and downs of my life, which has sort of informed it earlier on. Yeah.
And you were quite figurative, weren't you, when you were using the soft stone?
Yeah.
And do you feel like you've gone more abstract over the years?
Yeah. I feel like I've done figurative and I'm not interested in it anymore. I wanted to master it, and it was more like I just wanted to master it. Like everything that I do, every piece I look at as practice. Like a doctor has a practice, well, a sculptor has a practice, and you can't expect every piece to be a masterpiece. But every piece that you do is it's a practice towards executing something challenging, something that you haven't tried before. Can I do this? Is it possible? So I wanted to master the form of humans, because so many people associate sculpture with Michelangelo, classical sculpture. That's a sculpture. They not so much anymore. I mean, abstract sculpture is fairly well known now, but and as a kid, the first sculptures I saw were Michelangelo, and I was just like, wow. How could somebody make that? So I wanted to try, and it was more about mastering technique, I think. Yeah.
You studied fine arts at the University of California in 1985. Yeah, and is that where you learned how to work with stone?
We had an introduction to everything in that degree. Painting, sculpture, printmaking, clay, just everything. So I wouldn't say I mastered stone at all. We just had a section where you did stone, and that was the section I liked the most. It was when I came back to New Zealand permanently in 1985 and found these symposiums and just started doing it all the time. I mean, I was pregnant with my first child at that symposium in Western Springs. I was pregnant with my second child at a symposium in Hamilton, and nothing stopped me. I was just like, my little kids were like at home with their dad, and I was at a symposium.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Lauren, was that your full-time job, and that's what you saw as your full-time career, was being a sculptor?
Yeah, that's been me,
right from the beginning.
I mean, I've had lots of jobs to make ends meet. I've been a waitress, I've been a cook, I worked in a bronze foundry for a while. you know. But, to me, they were just to make money to do what I wanted to do.
Mm.
And then once I think I sold my first ever sculpture at that Western Spring Symposium. And I thought, I can make money doing this. And so I just threw my whole heart and soul into it and just did it full time. And, I never made much money, but I made enough to keep going through all these, people say to me, gosh, you've made so much work, I'm like, why have you made so much work? Well, that's what I do. That's who I am. That's my practice. And that's how I made money. And that's how I survived emotionally and financially all these years. So that's just who I am, And people always say, well, how do you make money? How do you actually make real money? I'm like, well, this is how, this is what I do.
Yeah. And you obviously have had a very busy practice and, because like you say, you have made so much work, but that's what you do every day, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And you actually have to be quite dedicated and have a routine in your life to do it. You have to be strong enough. You have to be healthy enough. So you have to have some sort of routine around health and fitness. So, your whole day is either taken up with that or working pretty much.
Yeah.
It's not time for anything else.
Yeah. And working with stone must, be quite physical and keep you pretty strong and fit.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
Yeah. I'm probably an extreme example of a stone carver. A lot of people, they have other careers and are stone carvers as well. I don't, each to their own, but just for me, I haven't found anything that I wanted to do as much as that. So get one life, you might as well do what you want to do with it.
Absolutely. For sure. And can we just talk a little bit, Lauren, about the actual stone as the medium that you mostly use? So I know you use quite a lot of stone from the area that you're from, the Tasman area at the top of the South Island, and now you are mostly working with hard stone like granite and marble and schist and that kind of thing, and also found river stones, which are really amazing. So can you just talk to us about how you source your stone and then how you actually manage it and work with it?
Yeah, well, I think that's the most difficult part of being a stone carver is that it's heavy, and sourcing it is difficult. I used to source it when I lived in Auckland. I used to get most of my hard stone from stone merchants. And unless you're really successful and can afford to import really good stone from overseas, like Carrara marble or something, which I'm afraid I've never been able to do so far, you need to kind of find what's available. At the moment, I'm living in a place where it's readily available all around me. I can go to the river and just look around and find rocks that I want. They're usually quite small, and you're only allowed to pick up ones that you can carry yourself from the river. You're not allowed to just take giant rocks out of the river. Anyway, you can't because there's no access. So I have a truck with a crane, but you're not allowed to use that for river stone. But the whole mountain behind me is made out of marble, and it's Marble Mountain, Takaka Mountain, and a lot of it is sourced by roadworking places and stuff, and they sell it, and they've already brought it to their yard, and you can pick it up from them with your truck with a crane on it if you have one of those, which I do. You need something like that. If you're a stone carver, you need a way to pick it up and move it around. It's just part of the game. So, yeah. that's pretty much where I source it from, the actual mountain. Sometimes there's a place called Cairo Farmstay that's actually had the marble from the Parliament is from there, and you can just go and look around on their 40-acre farm and pick out what piece of marble you want that will fit your idea.
Wow.
It's like if you've got a preconceived idea, I want to make such and such, you would go there, because you can see the stone is just lying on the ground. You can see how long it is, how wide it is, how tall it is, and you can buy it from them. Or if you don't really know, you just want some stone and you're not sure what you want to make yet, you can get marble from these roadwork places, which, it's a travesty. They just chop it up and put it on the road, which I think is terrible. I'm saving it from roads.
Yeah, which is good. Going to a much better place.
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. And then when you bring the stone, like a big piece of marble, back on your truck, what happens then?
Well, it depends if it's a commission or if I already have an idea. If I already have an idea, I usually would start on it straight away. I'd take it off my truck, and I've got like a open air workshop with various boxes of different heights that I can put the stone on, depending on how big it is. If it's really big, I usually start working on it outside because it's too big to put into the workshop. You get most of the bulk off it before I can move it in there. And then you just map it out, draw on the stone, start cutting it with diamond blades, and it's called roughing out. You get the main shape out, and then you just refine and refine and refine from there.
And what tools do you use for that refining process?
So once you've got a rough shape, you have to get all the tool marks from the diamond cutting blades off. So you use like grinding discs, which are a lot finer. And then if you want to do really small detail, there's air tools with chisels. There's air tools with Dremels that have different bits. For hardstone, pretty much all the tools are diamond chips. And the final refining process is sanding pads, which are sort of rubber pads that are embedded with diamond chips. So they go from 50 grit up to 3,000.
Wow.
And you just keep going up a grade until you get to the polish that you want.
So that sandpaper actually ends up doing the polishing.
Yeah.
You don't apply anything at the end?
I usually apply a thing called stain stop, because marble is it's limestone. So it's fairly porous, and if you don't put anything on it, it will eventually erode and turn black. So this stain stop stuff just keeps that from happening and keeps the grain visible and everything like that.
That's fascinating. And so I guess you have to wear protective gear and face mask and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's the downside to being a stone is you have to wear full face masks and gloves and ear muffs and knee pads. And the older you get, you've got pads all over your body. You got arm pads and wrist pads and knee pads, and it's sort of like this robot. It's people think that art is something that you pleasantly do, and you're sitting there and like there's videos of Barbara Hepworth, and she's like perfectly clean, and she's got a skirt on, and she's standing with the ocean in the background, and she's going chip chip chip, and I'm just like not what happens. It's just not true.
Not reality.
No, you just get really disgustingly dirty every day. You're just completely covered in dust. And when you first you walk into the workshop and you put on dirty clothes, You
Mm.
instead you put on, you wear the same clothes every day, because otherwise you'd be continually washing your clothes. So you put on dirty clothes, and once you do that, you're like, okay, I'm in the zone. Let's go for it. I'm already dirty. Let's go. Um,
Yeah.
but
Which is
people,
a good way to look at it, I guess. Oh,
most
that's so
people
good.
can't fathom that you would want to be that dirty.
Yeah, I mean, you must have the passion. You'd have to have the passion to be able to kind of put up with that kind of environment, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. You have to be slightly strange, I think.
Well, that's
Uh,
really interesting. And how do you actually go about coming up with your design? Do you do a lot of drawing or research or anything like that? And then how do you sort of, I mean, you said you draw onto the stone, but how do you kind of form that design? And does the design actually change as you're making your original design? Does it sort of evolve into other things sometimes? Or do you always have exactly what you've planned is what's going to happen?
well, when I first started out, I would make a maquette, like a little clay maquette. So I would use that as a guide, and I would use that. I would draw 2D pencil drawing onto, say, when I was first working, it was cut blocks of Amaru stone. So it was quite easy to transfer a design, a clay maquette design, onto a block of stone. You just draw it on, chop out this, chop out that. It was almost like you were executing something that you'd already made. As time has gone by, I've gone away from that process, because that was a good way to work, to learn how to do it, to learn how to do stone carving. But once you know how to do it, you can almost, it's like improvisation, like jazz. You know your instruments, you know what they can do, and you're working with other musicians, and you can play off each other. Well, I work with the stone, so the stone's my instrument, or the other musician, and I'm the instrument. My body's the instrument, and the stone is kind of like we are cooperating together to uh, create something that's instantly created rather than created and recreated, which is what a maquette process does.
Mm.
So what I usually do is I have a concept I want to make, a form about the ins and outs of, say, the ocean, how the ocean looks when it's like waves, how they change all the time. They're up and then they're down, they're up and they're down. How can I capture that in a piece of stone? So I only have like this feeling in it, and I can draw it immediately on the stone without having to make it first. And then the stone definitely informs, and it does change, because especially this marble around here, when you first get it, you can't really see what the inside of it's like. A lot of it looks black on the outside, and it's just a lumpy, amorphous. I mean, you can only make what fits into the lump of stone. You can't make something that doesn't fit into the lump of stone. So quite often the lump of stone informs the shape as well. You really have to work with the stone, and you can't be bossy. You can't say, nah, you have to do that, because it's just like, nah, I'm going to break.
I can imagine. And you work quite a lot with that, as you said earlier, the positive and negative ideas and sort of creating spaces and things inside things and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
How do you actually manage that with a block of stone?
Well, to be honest with you, a lot of what I've been doing lately is about positive and negative. Like if something goes out on one side, it goes in on the other. So I like to carve the whole piece of stone. And also in doing that, it makes the whole piece of stone lighter. So the more you carve that way, and then you turn it over and carve in the other way, it gets lighter and lighter, the stone. So you can turn it over and work on all sides of it. I forgot your question.
Just that idea of working with the positive and negative in your work.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, to me, everything is about positives and negatives, and form and the absence of form. life, death, the positive and negative are like the distilled elements of existence, really. And
Mm.
so it's an endless source of ideas. It's, you can distill it into just a positive form, and then the negative form next to it being created by the positive form, or you can have it be about how a rolling hill goes up and then it has to go down to go up again. But all of life is like that. It goes up and then it goes down, and then it goes up and then it goes down, and you can fight against that, or you can try and express it however you can. And I try and express it in stone, which is a really hard medium to try and express it in, but I think that's the challenge of it, and that when you actually pull it off, like the last piece I did where I felt like I pulled it off was a piece called Aotearoa. It was about cloud forms, and at the end it was a really large piece of marble, and I couldn't move it with my crane at first. I couldn't. It was just so big. It was like unmanageable. So I had to carve one side of it, doing the in and out, and then to get it light enough to turn it over to do the other side. And I must have turned it over and turned it over and turned it, I don't know how many times, but to get it to sing. So all the ins and the outs are married to each other, and they flow like music. And you can see that just by looking at it. That's kind of the goal, to look at something and go, and it makes you feel good. It's just like the ups and the downs, and it all just makes you feel good.
It really does.
Yeah.
I mean, is that inspired by cloud and the idea of the long white cloud, Aotearoa?
Yeah.
And that is, I mean, I said to you earlier, that's what attracted me to your work in the beginning. That's the first thing I saw, and I just felt, oh my gosh. I mean, it's just so beautiful. It's got such a softness to it, hasn't it? And it really feels cloud-like, and it's obviously very heavy and hard, but it has this crazy sort of cloud-like softness.
Opposites is, I'm trying to make something that's super hard and make it soft, and make it easy and make it look flowing.
And
when
you've
the
really achieved that.
Hard and dirty and not soft. It's the opposites, this fascinates me. I'm just like, to me, it's an endless source of inspiration to me.
I can imagine. And just sort of unveiling that, gorgeous white and sort of grey colour from the darkness in a way. It's like you're bringing the light up. Yeah, and it's so striking.
Stage, you don't even know where the grain really is until you're at the polishing stage with Takaka marble, because there's scratches all over it from the tools. Once you get to the polishing stage, you can see that the grain follows the shape that you've made, and you're like, so that's another element of stone carving that always keeps me going. Is like all of a sudden you're like, the stone says, this is what I have to give to this piece, you're like, wow. And you do it, it was there the whole time, and you didn't even know that it was.
Yeah, I can imagine that would be a really beautiful part of your practice. It's almost like a kind of little gift the stone is giving, or some sort of little surprise through your practice that ends up kind of informing how you finish the work off, I guess.
Yeah, it does,
Yeah, it's really beautiful, that one. And that's just kind of sitting on a steel stand, is that right?
Yeah, well, that was like an experiment to try and get it to float, because that's another problem with sculpture is you've made the stone sculpture in particular, you've made the sculpture, how are you going to present it, and presentation is really important, because if you present it wrongly, it ruins the whole sculpture. So that was an experiment in trying to get the stone to float without actually having to be supported by a stand or a pole or anything. Yeah. And I think it kind of worked.
I think it definitely works. Yeah. It's lovely having the space underneath it.
Yeah.
So it does give that sense of floating. Yeah.
I think that ultimately, if it was placed in a garden where the legs of the metal frame disappeared in like grass, so it would be like floating on the grass would
Yeah.
be the ideal situation.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And do you come up with your own design for all of your the stands that the work sits on, and do you make those yourself as well?
I didn't make that one myself because I don't have welding gear, but there's a welder just down on my road who made it.
Oh,
he,
that's handy.
he was able to come up because it had to be made so that it sat on where the bumps are. So he had to make the stand exactly to the shape of the sculpture. So it was just really serendipitous for how it happened.
Yeah.
But usually, yeah, I do. I make them myself. I probably don't make them as well as I could have because by the end of making the sculpture, I'm usually quite tired, and sometimes I get a bit lazy with the stands.
Yeah, that's the last step in the process.
Yeah.
And then you've also made the sculpture called Unfolding recently, which is out of the same kind of marble.
Yeah.
Is that kind of thinking of the same sorts of ideas?
Yeah. Well, that was actually inspired by a mushroom that I saw on one of my walks. Every day before I start work, I go for like an hour-long walk. And I saw this really strange mushroom. And I took a picture of it. And it's very in and out. The mushroom, it sort of comes up and then it folds out and folds in. And I was like, wow, that's kind of really like the clouds and the rolling hill idea, but it's more organic, kind of like what plants do. Plants are also all about ins and outs. So yeah, that was it's like an abstraction of that really interesting mushroom. And at the moment I'm working on a really large version of that, which is made from a piece of slag tight. When the things in caves fall down and they create one of those anyway.
Stalactites or
Stalactite.
Yeah, or stalagmite.
Somebody gave me, and I was afraid to carve it because I thought it would be too hard and ruin all my tools, but it's actually really softer than marble. In fact, it's too soft, but it's really, really big. It's sort of a really big version of the unfolding piece. It's sort of all about unfolding and also enclosing. So enclosing, unfolding, the opposites of that. Yeah.
Beautiful. And your work, I mean, most of your work is responding to sort of flora and fauna, and I know that you love birds, and you have made quite a few bird sculptures.
Yeah, I love birds because to me they're a symbol of freedom, and I think we all want to feel free. I know I do, and I've made a lot of piwaka wakas because they're very sculptural birds. They have such interesting the way their tails go and their little feathers out the side. And we've got heaps of them around here. They come in the house in the fall and they're flying around the house and they're flying around the garden. They're everywhere.
They're beautiful birds, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah.
And those works, I mean, sometimes, they all have an element of abstraction about them, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really interested in distilling a natural object to its kind of like simplest forms and how those forms interact with each other rather than trying to represent something accurately, realistically. I mean, I have attempted to do that, portray something realistically, and it was a good exercise, but doesn't really grab me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't find it quite so interesting because it's like a step further. It's like if you want to look at a realistic bird, look at the bird,
Yeah, that's right. Or the photograph.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I really love the way you've captured the birds through that sort of abstraction viewpoint, I guess.
Yeah.
And can you talk about some of the other stones that you use? I know you've sourced things from the Coromandel, stone from the Coromandel, and other things in the past. So, what other stones have you actually used?
Um, I've used a lot of andesite, which is a stone there's quite a lot of in New Zealand. There's a lot in New Plymouth, and there's some in the Coromandel. Andesite it's got a lot of glass in it, so it's very abrasive on your lungs and your tools. But it's readily available, and you can get it in quite big lumps. But it's not my favorite stone to work. It doesn't really have much character. It doesn't really have a grain. It's just kind of dark. The green andesite from the Coromandel has a bit more character, but it's quite shattered because it's from a quarry, and I think that they've just blasted it out of the hill. Granite. I love granite. Granite is great. There's a lot of granite around here, and it's got character. Each piece of granite is different colors, different textures, and it kind of, if stone could cooperate, it would be granite, because it's hard enough that you can pretty much execute pretty much anything you want with it, especially if it's a cut block from overseas. There's some amazing granites from overseas, and people are afraid of it because it's hard, but it's good that it's hard. It's good quality.
What is the good thing about having that hard stone? Why is that good for you?
Well, if it's too soft, it's hard to polish, and it's crumbly. It breaks easily. It's really fickle. It has a mind of its own. It's spongy. It's just not easy to do what you want with it. You have to really work with it, and you're like, it dictates more what you can do than you dictate what you want to do with it, sort of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Not such a collaborative process of you and the stone.
No, not at all.
And I know that you, in some of your works, you do combine different stones in the one piece, which is quite beautiful, having that lovely contrast.
Yeah. Well, recently I've been working with riverstone, and every riverstone around here, I've never seen so many different stones in one spot in my life. And like, you go down to this one river, and in the river there's just, looks like there's every stone from everywhere in the world. There's like stones that have got like 5 different colors in them. There's stones that have got stripes. There's green ones, red ones, brown ones, just amazing amount of, I don't even know what they are. I wish I was a geologist. I probably wouldn't know what they were, and they all react differently. So combining those with each other is quite interesting, because there are certain shapes, and you can only do certain things with them because they're only like that big. So you have to really go with what you've got and think, how can these two things relate to each other? How can I work together? And you're thinking about the color and the form and the size, and it's really quite a different way of working than working with a great big piece of stone that you work on for weeks at a time. Small, they take less time, and you're thinking about the relationship they have with each other, and each stone is different to carve too. So
that'd be beautiful. And it's just so nice that you're able to gather your materials from where you live.
And it's fun too. It's a day trip out to this amazing river and nice countryside, and it's like a treasure hunt. Oh, look at that one.
I can imagine. It's like, people who love collecting shells, it's probably a similar kind of feeling, isn't it? It'd be so lovely. Gorgeous. So it's amazing that you do all this incredible work with stone, and you have done for so many years, but you also sometimes work with bronze and sometimes with wood. So I know that you worked with in the 80s in the Artworks Foundry, which is where Jim Wheeler was also, who we interviewed a few months ago. And Jim.
Yep.
So, how did you get to the foundry, and what made you start taking an interest in bronze?
Well, when I did my art degree in California, we did quite a bit of bronze casting, and I do like bronze casting because you can really make anything that you want with bronze. It's because the original thing that you're working with is wax, um, and wax is almost, it's actually better to work with than clay because clay is so floppy and wax is more rigid. Um, and you've got you can make molds. You can actually make molds of natural objects like leaves, or whatever. So there's endless possibilities with bronze. So when I came here, I was looking for a job, and I saw that and thought, hey, I can make money and learn about the process, and hopefully make some art. Yeah, it was great working there. Meeting Jim, who was a fellow expat American, who decided that New Zealand was the better place to be. Yeah, so I'm a full blown Kiwi now. I really have no interest in America.
No.
Anyway, back to bronze.
We won't go there.
We won't go there.
Yeah. So you learned the process there, and you were actually working there for a while, were you?
Yeah, I worked there for 2 years. So I sort of rotated from what they call fettling bronze, which is getting the imperfections off the already cast bronze piece, to doing some fettling the wax, which is getting the wax ready to be cast. I think Jim mostly was doing the mold making, which is quite technical, and you need to know a lot about that. He's a virtuoso mold maker. Yeah. It was just good to know all the different processes that were in the.
Yeah. And like Jim and I spoke about, it's just so nice that process can be taught to more people, because does seem like it could be a dying art, just working with bronze.
I do more of it, but there's no foundries. The only foundries are in Auckland and Christchurch. It is kind of a dying art. Yeah.
It's a shame.
Yeah.
Hopefully it will sort of come back somehow. Maybe you need to start your own foundry in the Tasman.
Yeah. Well, it takes a lot of gear, and you have to know a lot of technical things about boiling points of bronze and heating up kilns and stuff that I don't know about. It'd be like getting into a whole nother expertise area.
Yeah. There's so many elements to the process, isn't there?
Yeah, it's the thing I like about stone carving, it's as immediate. What you do with your body is what you get with your product. Bronze is the opposite. It's kind of like really removed from the final product. You make it out of wax, and then you have to turn it into bronze, and then you have to take all the feeders off and get it back to what it looked like when it was in wax, and then you have to put a patina on it, and you don't get the final product for ages and ages. It's like not very immediate. So maybe it's because I'm a slightly impatient person. I don't know.
I can understand, and it's also hard when you have to send it off for certain stages to maybe somebody else to do the crafting. That would be quite hard, I imagine.
Yeah.
And what kind of things have you made with bronze?
I've made all sorts of things. I've made lots of birds. I've made abstract figures and forms from nature, leaf forms. I haven't made anything in bronze for quite a while. So,
do you think you'll ever go back to it, or are you stuck with your stone now?
Yeah, I mean, if somebody wanted me to make something out of bronze, I'd be happy to. If they were happy to pay for the process. I mean, I would have to make it out of wax and send it to a foundry, and they would actually turn it into bronze. So, that's the technical part. The technicians turn it into bronze, but the artist actually is working with wax rather than, or whatever. I mean, the original, what they call the original, which they turn into bronze, could be made out of anything. I've made bronzes from stone carvings. So you can make a mold of a stone carving, turn that into wax, and then turn it into bronze. I've done that before.
Yeah.
You can turn it into glass if you do glass casting. I've made a few glass castings from stone carvings. Yeah. It's the original can be made from anything. So the actual bronze itself is like, it's sort of what the technicians turn your original into, like working in a foundry, and then you're the technician. So,
yeah. So I can imagine why stone would just feel that much more sort of intimate in a way, that you're more connected to that piece of stone from beginning to end.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can understand that. And you do work with wood as well, and sometimes you combine wood and stone.
Yep.
So what led you down the wood path?
Well, I did quite a bit of wood carving at art school, and I probably did more wood carving back then than I've ever done, because I had wood carving tools and I didn't really have any stone carving tools back then. I used to do really complicated wood carvings all by hand to begin with, chisel and sandpaper. I look back at it now and I'm just like, I wouldn't do that now. I like wood. I like the smell of it. I like the grain of it. I like that it's quite easy to carve by hand, so it's not so loud and dusty as stone carving. On a large scale for outdoor sculpture, it just doesn't last. It even if you put lots of product on it, eventually it sort of fades away. If people don't look after wood carvings, they just think that they're going to last forever, and they don't. They just they just don't last. So I like the permanence of stone.
But it's interesting in your career and your practice, you have explored so many different materials and different processes, but really you've sort of keep coming back to stone, don't you?
Yeah. There's something about it. And people are telling me now that I'm 60 plus that I should move into an easier medium for my body. And I'm like, well, I don't think so.
No. I mean, will you keep doing it as long as you feel like you can?
Yeah, I'm just going to keep doing it until I just can't. And I don't know if that will ever be. I mean, as long as I keep fairly healthy and fit, I can just keep going,
And it's a good way to get older, is to be doing something so physical that actually keeps you strong and fit.
Yeah.
And active.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's a good thing. But at least you've got you've got things that you could fall back on if you ever wanted to when you're 95 or something like that. You could, work in small scale using wood or something that's not quite as physical if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's a long way away, I imagine.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
absolutely. And do you actually like to work big, or do you prefer to work small?
I prefer to work big. Small, you have the problem of it moving around while you're working on it, because you have to apply a lot of pressure. And so you have to have a way to secure it. So you have to put it in a vise, and then you have to keep taking it out and turning it around. And it's all a bit, annoying. And if you're working on a really big piece, you can actually, your body is the tool. You're climbing around it. You're climbing on it. It's just easier. Yeah.
Amazing. And you seem to have so many ideas, and you've made so many sculptures in your life. Do you ever have a problem with creative block?
Yeah. I'll finish something and then I'll be like, oh no, I have to think of something else to make now. and then, it's just that thought that I finished, and I have to, I don't have to, I want to make something else. And so what I have to do is just let it go and just let my mind sort of naturally go to the next thing. I don't have a theme that I can just churn out another variety of such and such. I'm not like a well-known figure maker or a well-known leaf maker or a well-known person who makes holes in rocks or something. Everything that I do has to be a challenge, and it has to be different from the last thing. I don't know why that is, but that's how I am. I like to follow. At the moment, I'm following kind of a theme, but each piece is totally different from the last piece. And so, yeah, I do get a block because it's not only what am I going to make, it's what I'm going to make it with. So unless I have the right piece of stone, I have to either go and get one that's the right, or try and figure out what I can make with what I've got. Yeah.
And sometimes your work is informed by the stone, and sometimes you have the work in your head and you need to go and find the stone. Isn't that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So interesting. And you live, as we said, in the Tasman area, top of the South Island of Aotearoa, and you've got this amazing home-based sculpture gallery on your 13-acre property, which sounds amazing. Can you tell us about that?
Well, we moved here from Auckland 5 years ago, and bought this place because we wanted to find a place that I could work from home. So basically we bought this place because it had a workshop on the property, but it also had a lot of land around it, which we have landscaped and put sculptures all around on, and opened it officially in 2019 to the public. It's a little bit off the beaten track. It's not, in a rural central area. It's more a rural area, but that's kind of the charm of it. You come up a long dirt road, and there's orchards and lambs and fields and apple fields, and it's just really like a nice day out in the country if you come to this gallery. It's not like your average gallery, and it's all outdoors, so we're pretty much open all the time. Yeah,
it really looks so beautiful, and it's such a great place for your work.
Yeah.
And is that one of the main places that you sell your work now?
Yeah, my larger work. I mean, the other reason that I did it was because I work in stone. Transporting large pieces are a bit of a hassle. Not only, you have to find some way to pick them up and put them down, you have to be able to get them in and out of galleries. And then the gallery owners have to be okay with, these huge lumps of stone. And, a lot of people don't know how to look after stone. And so I've just been really disappointed over the years with exhibiting with the galleries because of those factors. And you can only exhibit for a couple of weeks, and then you have to take it away. Then you go somewhere else, so just have somewhere that you can exhibit large work permanently and sell it is ideal.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's perfect. And how do you find the idea of having your garden open to the public and having to kind of speak with people about your work and that kind of thing?
Well, I quite like it because, as I said, I don't see a lot of people. It's a very solitary pursuit, being a stone carver. So seeing people is kind of a treat for me. I'm like, and talking about my work, I don't mind doing that. It's, it's something, it's a way to talk to people. And, they usually talk to me about themselves, and they're very interested in what I do, which is nice. And I like it.
That'd be lovely.
Yeah,
it's I think it's very personal. It's a lovely way to do it. And then, actually dealing with the people who are potentially going to buy your work yourself in your own way would be nice.
Yeah. And then, you can discuss with them what sort of presentation they want at their house. Quite often I go to their house and say, they say, well, what do you reckon? Should we put it here or there? Or what should we put it on? Or how should we put it? So they've got, an installation expert, me, and a deliverer, me, and the maker, me. So it's all in one package, where if you buy a piece of art, especially sculpture from a gallery, you've got to get it to your house somehow, and then you don't know how to put it up and stuff like that. But that's only for the locals. I mean, people do buy things from me they're from Auckland or Christchurch or wherever, and I ship them, so there's still that element of it. But for the people around here, it's good to be able to buy direct from the artist and have their
totally. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
And how do commissions work for you, Lauren? I mean, do people tell you that they want something like something else you've made, or do they leave it to you, or do they come up with a bit of a design brief that you kind of work around?
Pretty much all of the above. Some people are very specific. I want a cat and I want it to be in this style. I don't really do that kind of commission too much anymore. I used to do quite a bit when I was, relying on sculpture to survive. I'm not so much anymore. The kind of commissions I'll take on now are more, they have an idea of what they want, but they say they want me to interpret their idea in my style, however I would choose to. So I would make a drawing or a maquette and say, is this sort of what you're thinking about? And they'd be like, yeah, or no, or whatever. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
And do they often choose the stone that they are after?
Yeah, sometimes. The last commission I did, they actually chose the stone and the design brief, and it was a very specific commission. They gave me kind of the freedom to present their ideas how I wanted, but they definitely wanted certain elements to be present in the work,
And how do you find that kind of commission work where you have the kind of end product in mind?
I find it challenging and it's a good exercise, but I don't enjoy it as much as making my own work. I wouldn't say I don't enjoy it as much. I just find it's a totally different thing.
Yeah. You definitely wouldn't want to be doing that, only that.
No, I wouldn't want to be doing only that. I wouldn't do only that. No. No.
And just the last question before we get to our sort of regular quick-fire questions that we have at the end of every episode, what do you see is in the future for you?
As an artist?
Mm.
Well, I hope that I will be able to continue to grow my practice so that I am more able to have the freedom to make what I want to make without the constraints of there's so many constraints with time with stone carving. I think I would like to have more tools available to deal with the weight of stone, given my aging body. So I'm hoping to get more sort of lifting equipment and stuff like that, and to be able to reach a wider audience with the sort of free form stuff I've been working with lately.
And just on to our quickfire questions. Who would you say are your favourite artists and how or have they influenced your work?
Well, I don't actually have a favourite artist because I think there's so many wonderful artists in the world, and so many of them are not well known or known at all. And a lot of artists I really admire, I see on Facebook, and they're from all over the world. And I don't champion any one over another. I think they're all equally as important to everybody's development, to look at other people's work and appreciate it, and gather ideas from other people's work is important than being stuck on one person or type of work.
Great answer. So true. And what would you say to your younger artistic self, Lauren?
I would say don't worry so much about, being famous and successful. Just look at art as a practice, and everything that you do is going to lead you to the next step. And it's just, you're learning. Every time you make a mistake, you're learning. It doesn't matter if it doesn't work out, you're learning, and it doesn't matter if nobody likes it, you're learning. You're growing, and you're going to just get better and better the more you do it. Yeah.
So true. Oh, well, Lauren, thank you very, very much for your time. Next time I'm down in the Tasman area, I'm definitely going to come and meet you and see your sculpture gallery. And it's been so interesting speaking with you, and I feel very privileged to meet you. So thank you very much for being on our Creative Matters podcast.
Oh, thank you for asking me. It's been very interesting for me too.
That's great. Thank you.